that between the two people from ex-officials or people from the private sector. But officially, there is no dialogue. We have repeatedly said that we need to have sustained dialogue to move towards normalizing our relations, because this region is perhaps one of the least connected regions, and regional cooperation, economic cooperation is very important in this day and age for economic development. We have very large concentration of people who live below the poverty line. Despite shining India and the Indian projection as a global power, India still unfortunately hosts a large number of the poorest people in the world. And we also have population which is still does not have access to the basic facilities of health and education and development. So we need economic cooperation in this region. We need dialogue to resolve disputes between us. We are not saying that we have to first settle the Kashmir dispute and other disputes and then move towards a normalization of relation. It's a process that has to take place simultaneously, that we are addressing the disputes and issues between us. We understand that some of them may take longer while others can be settled or ripe for settlement. But at the same time, we continue to normalize relations, promote people-to-people contacts, promote economic relations, promote regional connectivity. But that is not happening. India has made everything conditional on discussing the issue of terrorism. Well, we are also interested in discussing the issue of terrorism as a victim of terrorism, not only at the hands of non-state actors and the events that took place in our region over 40 years, but also Indian state-sponsored terrorism, while India uses that Pakistani non-state actors, sometimes with the help of ISI and other agencies, are responsible for multiple terrorist activities in India. We have evidence of direct Indian involvement of RAW from Afghanistan and other places in sponsoring terrorism in Pakistan. So we are as much interested in discussing the issue of terrorism as India is, but that is not the only issue between Pakistan and India. We have had dialogue on a number of issues, and the format was that we identified the issues from core disputes to areas where we could cooperate. For instance, when we have border issues now, with India threatening to walk out of the Indus Water Treaty, we wanted to promote people-to-people contact. What India has done is that our two countries had an agreement that people from the two countries would visit the holy shrine and religious places. While Pakistan continues to offer that facility, India has stopped doing that. So unfortunately, it seems that in bilateral context, Pakistan and India are moving backwards, which is not a sign. And then the rhetoric and also claims, dangerous claims like the surgical strike inside Pakistan and the sea incident that I mentioned, these are, India is for some reason upping the ante. And unfortunately, all this has gone unnoticed. For us, it's very disappointing, to use a mild word, that the international community continues to exercise restraint while Pakistan has shown maximum restraint, the international community continues to exercise restraint in the Indian occupied Kashmir to Indian government and to unarmed peaceful protesters. I don't know how they are supposed to exercise restraint. So this is encouraging India to take, to still harden its position, to take strident stance on Pakistan, which can have consequences not only for peace and stability in this region, but beyond.
Thank you. Do you have time for another question? There was one from a journalist, One News. Very quick, very brief. Please go ahead.
Why is it so we are not much clear in formulating our foreign policy direction? There are plenty of multi-directional things within Foreign Office. Sometimes we are saying this, some of the officials say this and that, and they're contradictory within themselves. Why is it so that we are unable to develop a proper direction and proper line and length for our foreign policy rules? Thank you.
I don't know how you see it contradictory. Foreign policy has many nuances. It's an evolving process that responds to the changing situation. Sometimes those nuances are also not understood, and they are presented in very stark terms. I do not want to say anything about the media. It's not, but countries' foreign policy are formulated to promote and protect national interests. Those are defined by the leadership, by the state, all the organs of the state, and sometimes those national interests also evolve in the sense that the focus, for instance, on economic development, focus on connectivity, and how you achieve those objectives, they are articulated. Even in a very well coordinated foreign policy, there are trends or there are strands that may be contradictory, and you have to balance them. For instance, we want to focus on economic development, but we also want to have a foolproof defense system. So you want to focus resources on this and allocate resources to that. One is maybe seen to be at the cost of the other, but you have to balance it. Similarly, in foreign policy, there are challenges which give you different options and which need to be tackled. And your foreign policy evolves in a way to cater to those requirements. I would not say that it is contradictory. It's sometimes there are nuances which are not understood.
Thank you, Madam Aslam, for taking these questions and giving some very good responses which needed to be conveyed and clarified, and positions clarified. I will now draw this question and answer session to a close as she has to leave, and we will take a 5 minutes break for tea and coffee, which is available at the back of the hall, and we would request Mr. Steam Aslam to join us for a group photo before you leave.
Actually, because of the change of time, my schedule got a bit disrupted because I had a meeting at 11:30. So they are already waiting for me at the ministry.
will take 2.5 minutes.
The chair for this session, Mr. Inamul Haq, to kindly take his seat. I also request the speakers for this session, Mr. Rahul Roy Chaudhary, Ambassador Riaz Khokar, Brigadier Ben Berry, and Dr. Hassan Askari Rizvi to take their positions on the panel. Mr. Inamul Haq is a career diplomat who served as Pakistan's foreign minister from 2007 to 2008 during the caretaker government of Mohammad Mia Sumro. He also served as Pakistan's foreign secretary from 2000 to 2002. Joining the Foreign Service in 1965, he held a number of important positions in Pakistan's diplomatic missions abroad, including the missions to United Nations, Portugal, Nigeria, and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He served as Pakistan's ambassador to Turkey and later to China between 1992 and 1999. He remained Pakistan's permanent representative to UN from July 1999 till February 2000. He is a distinguished visiting fellow at the National Defense University, Pakistan, and delivers lectures at the national security workshops organized by the university. I now request the chair to kindly proceed with the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Since we are running a bit late, we will start this session without further ado. This session will deal with the subject of tensions with India. And we have 4 very distinguished speakers with us who will be speaking on this subject. I would like to invite the first speaker, Mr. Rahul Roy Chaudhary, who is an CISS Senior Fellow for South Asia. He is responsible for the South Asia program in the Institute for Strategic Studies, focused on regional stability and security, counter-extremism and counter-terrorism, India-Pakistan relations, nuclear and missile issues, and India's foreign and security policies. Earlier, he served in the National Security Council Secretariat in the Prime Minister's office in the previous BJP government in India. Prior to his official appointment in the Prime Minister's office, he remained on the faculty of the Institute for Defense Studies and Analyses in New Delhi. He joined the CISS-IISS in October 2003. As you can see from his biodata, he has a vast responsibility on the issue of South Asia in the CISS, and I now give him the floor. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for the introduction. I'm delighted to return to Pakistan again, and very happy to be here today to speak in this session. This is an important session of tensions with India, and I think what we've seen really in the last 12 months is clearly a deterioration of the bilateral relationship. We are unfortunately currently going through an extremely difficult period in India-Pakistan relations, with heightened tensions persisting for the entire year. And there are clearly some benchmarks when we look at the reasons for this. There have been terror attacks that have taken place. There is civil unrest in Indian-controlled Kashmir. Alleged spies have been publicly unmasked and expelled. Military and paramilitary forces of both countries are at a high state of alert. Tensions have mounted on land through the intensification of firing and violence on and across the line of control, as well as the working/international border, along with an incident taking place at sea and concerns over the violation of airspace. The SAARC summit, another example, the SAARC summit scheduled to be held in Islamabad last month was cancelled. People-to-people and cultural contacts have been curbed. The broadcast of each other's media content is prohibited, and the other's television and radio channels have also been banned in some cases. And the sharp official rhetoric exchanges between the two governments and military have been more than matched by the warlike stance of their nationalistic media. So these are some of the main factors contributing to the deterioration of bilateral relations this year. All this is worryingly accentuated by the absence of any official dialogue between the two sides, as a result of which possibilities of misperceptions, misunderstandings, and miscommunication over third-party actions or inadvertent reactions rise with a possible risk of escalation. This state of affairs is, I believe, primarily the result of two factors. First, a series of attacks on Indian military camps in Punjab and Indian-controlled Jammu and Kashmir, which the Indian government blames on Pakistan-based militant groups with support by elements of the Pakistani security establishment. But the Pakistan government strongly rejects any official complicity, is investigating the role of Pakistani nationals in the Pathankot attack, and denies any Pakistani role in the recent Uri or Nagrota attacks. In the meantime, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has prioritized the countering of terrorism in the country's national policy, its regional and